This is a question from your son.
Yes.
And I said, is there any question you haven't asked your dad
Wow,
that you're still curious about? And he said, yeah. He's pretty calm, actually. He's a calm guy. He's not outrageous like you.
He's pretty outrageous.
And he said, my dad does everything on such a big scale. Everything is big. Everything is huge, impactful. It's like the biggest it can be, the best it can be.
Yeah.
He said, but I wonder what's something small he's done that he's so proud of. So is there something small you've done? An example was you giving money to, that child was a great example of that. But is there something recently you've done that's so small that you're like really proud of?
A lot of people don't think proud is a good term. I think it actually is. Ego is edging God out. That's when you make shit up to make yourself feel good. But I think if you've really done something, you have, and no one could take that from you. And so I'm proud of who I am as a man. I'm proud of the things that, what goes on when the camera's not on. And there are people around me all the time that will tell other people stories about what I'm really like, so I don't have to communicate that to people. It gets shared. So I don't know. There's so many things in life. I don't measure them as big versus small.
Sure.
My wife was somebody who would see one person and be thrilled, and I had to see 10,000. I think so. She's balanced it out for me. I feel like life is short, and while you're here, I want to have the most impact that I can. So I go deep and I go wide. Right. But every interaction to me is an important interaction, and sometimes that interaction is just being kind. I know it sounds stupid, but kindness can, to the right place at the right time. Somebody can be suicidal. You don't know it. You're being kind, and it changes their state. Yeah. There's an interesting story of there's a gentleman who wanted to kill Nixon, and he couldn't get access to Nixon. It's a true story. And so he wrote a journal. That's how we know the details of it. And he decided he's going to go after Wallace and he's going to shoot Wallace. And he actually did do that shooting. And when they read his journal, it was fascinating. He didn't want to kill Nixon because he didn't like him or Wallace. He just wanted to be famous. He wanted to be worth something. And one of the reasons he didn't kill Nixon is he was going after Nixon, and he was this far from the president, and an old woman bumped into him just as he's reaching in his pocket to get this gun. And in the middle of this, everything's frenzied. He wants to shoot, become the most famous man, another one of those assassins. And this woman grabbed his hand and said, "I'm so sorry. I'm just so sorry."
Really?
And he said in his journal afterwards, his hand was on the gun.
Wow.
And her looking in his eyes with this love in her eyes and this kindness in her eyes, he said, "I couldn't make her witness that," and he put the gun away.
Oh, man.
That saved Nixon's life.
Wow.
Right. So he went after Wallace, But that's the power of a moment of kindness. So I think we underestimate. Somebody came and fed my family when I was 11 years old, Obviously, the person must not be alive still because I've told the story these last 20 years, and they haven't reached out to me.
Yeah.
But, imagine what the impact of that was by that one little act of kindness.
Crazy. Yeah, amazing. So you go back to 31. You're 31, you're my age.
Yep.
What are the 3 things you do with your money based on the information in this book? We talk a lot about asset allocation.
Yes.
The fees, understanding where you're putting your money, and understanding finding a fiduciary, right?
Yes.
You talk a lot about that, but what would you do if you're making...
Knowing what I know today?
Yeah, go back, you're 31 years old, what would you be doing?
Well,
three things you do first.
Well, you have a good income, so we're talking about you.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Okay.
So you're making 6 to 7 figures.
Great, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So what I would do in that range is I would take and I would model one of the best masters. If it was me, one of the people, asset allocation, so people are clear, is the one thing that I met with David Swenson. He took $1 billion, turned it into $24 billion in 2 decades, in 20 years. Just mind-boggling. $1 billion a year, right? Just think about that level of doubling. It's just mind-boggling. And I asked him, I said, what are the dials? What are the only dials we can touch? And he said, Tony, to increase your return, there's only a few things you can do. He said, you can make better selections of stocks. He said, you can have better timing. He said, and you can have better asset allocation. He said, the first 2 will never happen because the first 2 cost you money. Got to hire somebody. Everybody's wrong on the timing. He said, asset allocation, which simply means dividing your money into different buckets. Some of those buckets are secure so that even though you think you're going to be a genius, you're going to make money no matter what. That money grows slower, but it'll always be there, and it'll give you freedom for the rest of your life. There's a growth bucket, which is also a risk bucket. We forget that.
Yeah.
Because one of the things Ray Dalio taught me, he said, Tony, everybody invests in what they think they know. If you grew up with real estate, you're not a genius, but you made money in real estate, because anybody can when real estate's going up.
Yeah.
You think you're a genius. You think you know stocks. Oh, you're a genius, in 1999, right?
Sure.
You're a genius in 2010 when things started to grow a bit. He said, whatever you invest in, In your lifetime, that area is going to drop 50 to 70%. There is zero exception. He can show you mathematically and he can show you historically.
Wow.
So he said you have to diversify even though you don't want to. And you have to divide these monies up. So every one of them taught me different asset allocations. But the one that I think is the most valuable for anybody to really take advantage of is Ray Dalio's, because Ray Dalio's figured out, why is it in 2008, if your stockbroker, your financial planner said, we're going to protect you, we're going to put you half in stocks and half in bonds, why did they both go down? You weren't protected at all. Same thing happened in 2000. And he figured something out. When you think you're in a balanced portfolio, you're not balanced. And the reason is stocks are 3 times more volatile than you'll find in bonds. What does that mean? It means when you think you're 50-50, you're 50-50 with your money, but you're not 50-50 with your risk. You're 95% at risk and 5% on the good side. That's why everybody loses. So he figured a formula, because he said, look, someday I'm going to be gone.
Yeah.
I want my kids to have the money long term. I want, all the philanthropic things I'm doing to be taken care of. So he spent 15 years studying the markets and figured out, how do I design a portfolio that'll make money every time? Like, if it loses money, it lost in 75 years, it's lost 1.6% when it's lost, but it's been right 85% of the time. Wow. If you went to Vegas and you had a plan that worked for 75 years and made money 85% of the time, and when you lost 1.6%, and when you gained more than 10%. Wow. The biggest loss in 75 years is 3.95%, less than 4.
Wow.
So why did people not make it in the stock market? Because when you take a 50% hit, they all say stay in. Nobody, the average person never stays in.
Sure.
If you look at the last 20 years, the average person, the stock market over 20 years, from 1993 to 2013, has averaged 9.2%. Pretty cool compounding. You double your money pretty damn quick doing that.
Right.
But the average mutual fund investors made 2.5%.
Ooh.
Why? Because they freak out, they sell when it goes down, they buy when it's looking good, which is the wrong time to buy it. They don't know what to do. So what Ray Dalio's strategy does, and by the way, he's never shared this strategy ever publicly.
And he gives it in here.
He gives it in here, which is mind-boggling. Now, I pushed him, I teased him, I cajoled him. In the end, I said, look, you're not taking any more money, help the average guy out. He lays it out. You can do it yourself, or you can have someone else do it for you, but it takes 15 minutes a year and 85% success over 75 years. Wow. And I could take any time period, the last 30 years. He lost money 4 times. One of those was 0.003%, so it's really break even. So, and again, the most he ever lost, less than 4%, average 1.9%. Right. So if you're looking for a plan, I'd put some money there. Then the other money that I would do is I'd take some of that money and I'd look at what are the biggest trends. I have a lot of my money also in senior housing, and the reason is twofold. It's a demographic inevitability. There's this giant wave of baby boomers, and there isn't enough senior housing to take care of them. And I like it. I like to create a quality place for someone to be able to be lived and taken care of and so forth. But there's huge income from it, and there's the growth in the asset itself.
Sure.
So I'd be looking at what are the big trends, but I would make sure I locked down a segment of my money that I took a percentage of my income no matter what, and I made it really big, and I made it so I'd never have to work again. And that's where I am now. I don't have to work. And what's ironic is, when you interview people that make at least $750,000 a year, right, just under $1 million, 80% of them say they'll never retire. When you interview people that make a very little amount of money, they all talk about wanting to retire. Right. And the people that do retire say they'll retire after 75. Like, Steve Wynn's my buddy, he's 72. Warren Buffett's 84 now.
Still working.
I met with Jack Bogle, who created Vanguard. He's been in the business 63 years.
Wow.
He's 85 years old and such a genius. Sitting down there, he spent 4 hours with me, by the way. He came by for 45 minutes. He wrote in the book here, he goes, Tony Robbins came by for 45 minutes. 4 hours later, I had the most provocative and probing interview of my life, he said. But the guy's still in the game. Because the real goal is not to have to work. If you don't work, you'll go stark raving mad, because we all need to be productive to feel alive.
Yeah, interesting. A couple questions left for you.
Sure.
One of them is, what's your definition of greatness?
I don't know. I think everyone has greatness. I don't like that separation. I respect it, because in sports, I think it's really easy to measure. But sports is one aspect of life. I think everyone has the opportunity to be great. To me, being great is being outstanding, to stand out from all the rest. And as you know, in sports, it can be by a few microseconds, right? In the Olympics, it can be a nose hair, and you stand out. If you stand out, you show other people what's possible. Not everybody likes that. Some people get angry and think you're showing them up. Other people get inspired. I've always been inspired by somebody who's the best in the world at what they do. And so I think greatness is somebody who just will not settle and finds a way to do, be, share, and create in life what they want, as opposed to fitting in. I think most people are trying to not be rejected. I wrote in this book, I took a a quote from Aristotle saying, how do you really live your life? Well, if you don't want to upset anybody, it's really simple. Don't do anything, don't say anything, don't be anything, and everybody will like you. You know? But if you want to have a quality life, I think you just have to put yourself on the line. And so to me, greatness is people that put themselves on the line, they keep growing, they won't settle.
So what's next for you? What are you still up to? I mean, why are you going after inspiring 100 million people, feeding 100 million people? What's next?
Why not? Right? It's like, what else are you doing in your life? I look at, there are lots of challenges. I mean, this is a problem I wanted to go after. It's a problem because people are being abused by a system that nobody means to abuse it. It's just, it's not an evil system. It's just, you have large corporations that are set up to make a profit, and that's their job. They're not set up to make you as an investor more profitable. So they take care of their shareholder first. So they get all the fees they can. They manipulate the system. So I want to give people freedom. To me, that's valuable. But what I do with my life is I look at what I see that moves me. I mean, I always tell people ask me about speaking, they say, how do you be an effective speaker? I said, don't speak about shit you're not passionate about. And that you don't have a true edge where you can help somebody. If you can add massive value and you're passionate about it, then talk about it. Otherwise, shut the what up. That's my view. So when I find things that I'm very passionate about, I like to go deep. I think we live in a Facebook world, a Twitter world, a tweeting world, texting world where people are, by technology, not realizing they're becoming more and more shallow. I mean, there are people ending relationships by texting now. It's like, just, are you kidding me? They go, why is the person upset? I can't understand. Did you see this? I texted them. And I look at them going, are you kidding? But technology is making us think that our Facebook friends are our friends. I mean, give me a break. There's only a few friends you can go deep with. You can't have 10,000 friends and go deep. And I think a lot of people are dissatisfied because technology is making us go faster and faster. So I look for things to go deep in. And I think in our lives, there's a few areas that matter. Your body, your emotions, your spirit, your relationships, your economics, your business. Those half dozen or so areas I like going deep in, and I'm going to keep doing it.
Sure. Chad Moretta asked me he said, all the interviews you've done lately for promoting this book have been very intellectual. And he said, I'd love to see you get him in his physical state and show your move. So in a second, I want to see if you'd be open to doing a thumb wrestling and getting into state so we can show people how you do this. If you're open to it. If you're open to it. In a second.
You go to getting in state. Getting in state that's not what it's about. So go ahead.
I would love to see how you get into it right before you go on stage or whatever.
I don't go to state to thumb wrestle. Trust me.
Arm wrestle?
Yeah, no, good.
But before we do that, if you're open to it, I just want to acknowledge you, Tony. I think it's you've had a huge impact on my life and so many people. I posted last night. I'm going to be interviewing Tony. Is there any questions you guys might have? And hundreds of comments and questions of people saying how you've impacted their lives. So I just want to say thank you for creating the spark for so many people, including myself when I was 16 and watched you for the first time.
Where did you come to the seminar?
It was in St. Louis, Missouri, at the Javits Center back in the day.
Yeah.
It was. I don't think it was UPW. It was like
it's a one-day event, wasn't it?
It might have been 1 or 2 day day. I remember it was like Donald Trump was there, Dick Vermeil, like a lot of people were there. And I remember my dad bought us floor seats, like probably halfway back on the floor. And there was a moment where you walked out and you came out and you walked right next to me. And I remember thinking, first off, wow, you're really big.
You're pretty big yourself.
I was smaller then, but I remember thinking, how, this is so inspiring that someone can take an idea of what they want, their vision, and create it and manifest it into speaking in front of thousands of people and really adding so much value to the world and so many people's lives. And I remember then thinking, that's something I would love to do one day, is be able to turn a vision into reality. And so I want to acknowledge you for creating the spark in so many people. Every workshop you provide, so many people are moved and changed. And so I think it's so powerful what you've created, and I want to acknowledge you for that.
What you have to do to become unshakable is the metaphor I use is turn the snake into the rope, meaning we all know the story. It's the middle of the night. You're walking through the yard or someplace and you see a snake and you're freaked out. You pull back, you come in the morning and it's a rope. Once you know it's a rope, you're never afraid again.